hosting. I just sent an email out to all the ZAG Marketing Committee members with the information that Terry was just sharing on the joinwebinar.com and the code. Well, we just want to thank you all for attending and letting you know, first off, that this webinar is being recorded. So if anyone is not able to connect for some reason or not able to make the presentation today, just know that this will be recorded and we will get it to Katie as soon as we can after today's webinar so she can make it available to all of you. A few housekeeping items that we want to share with you before we move forward. We will be having a quick survey at the end of today's webinar. As you leave the webinar, you will find just, I think it's 3 questions, but in those questions, you will be able to request a copy of this too. So if you want this directly emailed to you, we can do that, as well as we are going to offer to those that are interested an e-book that we can electronically send you that will assist you in developing your own LinkedIn profile if you feel so motivated to do that after today's presentation. We will also leave a few minutes at the end for you to write in questions that you may have. There's a box on your screen where you can send chat questions. And we want to encourage you to do that because Terry and I work together as a team and can certainly answer those questions as we are moving forward in the presentation and or at the end. So just to quickly tell you a little bit about my background and why I'm passionate about social media. Actually, I have been an early adopter of social media, and the reason being not because I love social media so much, but because back in 2007 when I was a financial advisor, my #1 referral source, far and away #1 referral source, was an early adopter, and he truly did love social media. He was an attorney, and he invited me to join LinkedIn back in 2007, and I felt guilty about not doing it because he was such an influence on my business. Therefore, I jumped in on LinkedIn. I made myself for 15 minutes every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, participate in LinkedIn by going through some business cards, adding connections, slowly building my profile, and finally I started to see eventually the value of it. But because of that, I have been on social media, especially LinkedIn, since 2007. I have run my own business, financial services business. I've actually started 2 practices from scratch, been in the shoes that many of you are in with having to bring in new clients, develop resources, referral sources, and I'm currently serving as the Minnesota Financial Planning PR Committee Chair. Also want to just quickly introduce my I like to say brilliant business partner because I really love working with Terry Wheeler. She brings a lot to the table in terms of just marketing knowledge and experience. She was a marketing director for 3 large law firms here in Minnesota, managing at one time a firm, the marketing efforts for a firm with over 250 people, attorneys. So she knows how to manage a lot of moving parts in a very strategic and complex marketing situation. Currently, too, what I really appreciate about her is her connections within the legal industry, especially that she's a board member right now with the Lawyers Board of Professional Responsibility. So when it comes to compliance and ethics, she's on the ball. So we want to start by doing a quick survey with all of you to ask you what your biggest concerns around social media are right now. And we did ask this at the beginning of our engagement with ZAG in our survey, but now we'd like to see if the results are still the same. So if on your screen, you can just click on the question, and we will share the results with all of you in just a moment. About half of you have responded. So we need a few more. We're getting up to 75%, so if you haven't responded, please do so. We'd like to get up to about 80% before we close the poll. All right. Great. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and I'm going to share the results. it looks like at this point, a lot of people are still concerned with the compliance issues, which is, coincidentally, exactly what the survey showed that we asked you all to complete at the beginning of our engagement. And that survey, I think it was 75% were most concerned about compliance. The time issue is usually always a factor, as well as not sure how to use it, as well as not sure it's really worth the effort. Well, the good news is today, even though we don't have a lot of time to talk with you, we will be going over all of those topics. So we will make sure we cover the compliance, and we will also talk about time management skills. In fact, today this is what we will be covering. Just quickly, we want to talk about some social media or social marketing trends, talk about why you should embrace social media. And just to clarify, when we talk about social media, we will be talking primarily about LinkedIn today, because LinkedIn is where your referral sources and other professionals are, and we believe that at this point that is the main priority for your social media efforts. There's certainly other channels you can be using, especially from a firm standpoint, but in terms of what we're going to talk to you all today about, it's going to be primarily LinkedIn. So we're going to talk to you about some steps that you can, things you can do to be successful on LinkedIn. Of course, compliance, although we will be doing the 30,000-foot level, but we want to make sure everybody is comfortable with what they need to be aware of in regard to compliance. And then we'll share with you some next steps that you can take immediately following this webinar today. Okay, current marketing trends and statistics. As I mentioned earlier, I have been in your shoes as a financial advisor. In fact, when I first got out of college back in the early 90s, I worked, one of my first jobs out of college was as a licensed sales assistant for a regional manager of an independent broker-dealer. And I helped him manage a region of 40 different advisors. We recruited people over from the wirehouses, and we helped people start their businesses from scratch. And so at that point, what we would do with new people or people that needed to build their businesses, honestly, we would buy them a list. And I'm sure there's probably many of you that can resonate with that, where you would, some of you may have even built your book literally out of calling through a white pages. I know Edward Jones still does this, but door to door, things that, you know, having a booth at a fair, it was cold calling was a big part of a marketing strategy. That is completely changed now, fast forwarding 20, 25, 30 years later, whatever it is, from when some of you built your businesses, to where digital marketing and networking and content marketing and social media are completely different. It's a whole new world out there in terms of how you bring in new business. In fact, here's some statistics that we think are very interesting in terms of how people buy financial services. And this is based on a study that Hinge Marketing has done. It's a research study that they did earlier this year. And according to the people that they studied, buyers of financial services actually turn to colleagues or friends for recommendations on a financial advisor. 87%. That's how they buy or find a financial advisor. The second most popular response is to search online. So what that basically tells us is that we absolutely need to have a presence online in a way that will showcase our value to those that are searching for you online. Even if someone refers your name to other people, we're a Google society. They're still going to Google you and find out what you look like online to see if your image online, your message, and your personality resonate with them. So it's extremely important, based on these statistics, to make sure that you show up appropriately online. LinkedIn is one of the top Google responses if somebody Googles your name. So if nothing else today, Google your name and find out how you show up. And we wanted to make sure that we let you know that your clients are using social media. This is a study from earlier this year put out by SEI from February of this year, that why financial advisors need to use LinkedIn. I think that the second bullet point is extremely important. 52% of affluent investors say that they would interact with financial advisor via social media, but only 4% are currently interacting with their financial advisor online. It's a crazy statistic. About half of the LinkedIn users currently have a household income of over $100,000, and 73% of, quote, affluent investors with $100,000 or more in investable assets use LinkedIn to research investment decisions. Now that could be even just researching who they want to use as an investment advisor. And then finally, I love this one too, because I think this is shocking to some of us, that because baby boomers are probably a large portion of a lot of your client base right now, statistically they control over 80% of all personal finances, and 50% of all consumer spending is boomers, which I'm sure is not a surprise to most of you on the call. But 84% of internet users 50 or plus are using or interacting with the following websites. And this is straight from AARP website that I found this information. But look at the areas that they're going to, as well as baby boomers are also, I know we're not going to talk about Facebook, but this is an interesting statistic, that baby boomers are the #1 highest new account users on Facebook. And it's largely to keep in touch with their family members. Okay, why embrace social media?
Okay, this is Terry. We've switched gears now. So I'm going to talk with you a little bit about why it's important to embrace social media, that it's here to stay, that yes, financial advisors and advisory firms do have compliance issues that they have to deal with a little bit more than other professionals, but it's really important as you look at your marketing plan going into 2014 that there be a section of your marketing plan that talks about social media. So why is that really important? It's important because social media builds the brand that is you. And what that means is that you have to have visibility out in the marketplace so that people know who you are. You need to be out there, visible, and there are many different ways that you can increase your visibility. You can do advertising, for example, which we don't feel is a very cost-effective use of your resources because you're just throwing messages out there into the marketplace and hoping people see them. But increasing your visibility is a very important component of what it is that's going to get a client to hire you. You could do public and media relations. You could write articles. You could do presentations. This is all about visibility building. And as you can see, when you do take the time to build your visibility in the market, you're also building your credibility as a professional. I know I've gotten really picky, and I'm sure Christy has too. For example, if I go to somebody's LinkedIn profile and I see that it basically consists of their name, rank, and serial number, they don't have a photo, they have 10 connections, they immediately lose some credibility in my mind because LinkedIn is such a predominant way in which professionals are now connecting and sharing information and making referrals amongst and between themselves. And we won't get into the details, but Christy and I have story after story after story of how professionals have used LinkedIn, and we're going to get into that. We're going to give you some tips and ideas here, but the big point is it does generate business, and it doesn't take a lot of time. And the combination of having that high level of visibility to build your credibility becomes your brand. Now, I'm going to let Christy talk a little bit about the importance of what we're calling content marketing. So here's Christy.
So because your brand is a big part of your visibility contributes to your brand, it is essential in today's digital marketing world to be assured that you have a content marketing strategy. So all of these items that you see on the screen can contribute to your content marketing strategy. In today's market, because of all the different ways and types of messages we all get every day. Statistically now, and I learned this in sales training, it takes 14 touches for somebody to go from a cold prospect to actually being a client. Generally speaking, that's usually about 5 conversations, and the rest of that is people finding out about you in these various different avenues that you see online, where they Google you, they looked at your LinkedIn profile, maybe they see you at a networking meeting, then they go back and read your bio on the website, and then you put a status update on LinkedIn and they read that. It's all about staying in front of them in a way that's subtle and valuable. So here's some more interesting facts around that. 63% of people requesting information on your services today will not purchase or engage you for at least 3 months. And 20% will take up to 12 months to engage your services. So contacting your prospective and existing clients every 3 months is the ideal way to stay top of mind. Well, how do you do that? You can do it through phone calls, or you can implement a content marketing strategy.
This is Terry again. I want to talk a little bit about, as you're looking at content management, there are 2 ways in which to look at the content that you're putting out there. First of all, there's push marketing and there's pull marketing. So I'd like to describe how those 2 interact. First of all, you can push content out. As I was talking about alternatives to build your visibility, you can push information out, you can do direct mail, you can do newsletters, you can push your website out, you can communicate, you can do advertising, you can have an article published, you can do presentations. You're pushing your message out to people. But your ultimate goal, you can push a lot of information out there, and even for our clients who are actually pushing a lot out in terms of social media, they're doing posts maybe every day, every other day. Well, they're pushing the message out, but what we want to get to is where you're pulling your clients, prospective clients, and referral sources, centers of influence, into your sphere of influence. We are trying to engage people in your message and pull them so that they want to hear more and learn more. So pushing messages out, even on social media or LinkedIn, is just half of the challenge. You need to also be on LinkedIn looking at what other people are doing, commenting on when someone gets a promotion. You're trying to engage and interact versus just throwing it out there and seeing if someone contacts you. So it's really important as you start looking at content marketing that you acknowledge that there are these 2 activities, and both of them are extremely important. And if you're not doing the first one, which is pushing your information and your thought leadership and knowledge out there into these focused, targeted audiences, which we'll talk a little bit more about, it won't be possible for you to engage with people and pull them in. So being out there, pushing the right messages to a very targeted audience is extremely important, and will pull them in so that they want to find out more, so that they will go to your LinkedIn profile, go to your website, which, by the way, websites, the most visited pages on any firm's website is always going to be the biography pages. So it's important to focus on that so that as people are out there researching you, you are able to pull them in by having substantive content out there. I'm going to turn it back to Christy, and she's going to talk about the impact of driving traffic to your website as a result of social media.
So again, we're talking about why to use social media. Terry and I just rebuilt our website this summer, and when we did, we added Google Analytics on our site to make sure that we were tracking where people are coming from that come to our site, how they're interacting on our site, and we put just a little quick link at the bottom of this page in case you want to do the same thing on your site. But essentially what we found is that now 50% of our website traffic is coming from LinkedIn. That's a huge increase. We made a concerted effort earlier this year to post status updates on a more regular basis, both just sharing content of value from other places that we think are producing valuable content, and then also pushing people back to our website where we also are providing valuable content to our contacts. And we want to encourage you to do the same thing. To help with that effort, we just put these 5 quick tips here on this page, which we'll expand upon a little bit more in this webinar. But just for those of you who are like, I don't know where to get great content, I put down some sources that literally yesterday I just gave to one of my coaching clients for the same reason. The Financial Planning Association, the national website, has great content. RIA stands for You is a website that Schwab, for those of you that have custody with Schwab, they provide some great benefits, and that's a public site. And then, of course, Personal Finance from Forbes, Money, and then the last one is a site I found just really quickly that talks about estate planning issues. So just want to encourage you to look at those different areas for content that you can be sharing. Handing it back over to Terry.
Okay, so we're going to start talking about some steps. As Christy mentioned, the purpose of this particular call is to talk about how you can be successful on LinkedIn and how we can reassure you that you can do so in a time-efficient way. And so we're going to start by taking a look at it, and we put these into simple steps for you. So first of all, obviously there are a number of you who are already on LinkedIn, and that's wonderful. And what we need to make sure that you do if you're not on LinkedIn is that you go to the site and that you join LinkedIn. Now, we believe it's important to, in our own thought leadership as marketing coaches and consultants, we want to help people make sure that they never feel like, gee, what do I do next? So there are 2 resources that we put at the bottom of this particular page in terms of setting up your profile on LinkedIn, kind of 101 level. The first one is from, as we've all heard, setting up a LinkedIn profile for dummies. So there's actually a very good video that you can click on and link to if you do request the slides. And then also on our own website, psm-marketing.com, right on our homepage, we have an option for you to click into our marketing motivation tools. And we have myriad resources available for you on how to build your profile, on how to ask for introductions, on how to make recommendations and endorsements. So we also provide a lot of tools as well for you. So I really encourage you to go out and create that LinkedIn profile. We're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Also, for those of you that aren't sure exactly how LinkedIn works, we created this visual so that you could hopefully get a better understanding of LinkedIn and the value of connecting with others, because we're going to encourage you to make sure you're connecting with others. Here in this picture, the level 1 are people that we would hope you'd think of connecting with. Your own colleagues. You'd be surprised how many people are not actually connected with their own colleagues. That is the first place you need to go. Add your colleagues. Second place, add your valuable referral sources. Think about, who do you refer your clients out to? Who do you trust? Connect with them. Now, the clients, that's up to you. You know, some people really want to connect with their clients. If your clients are on there, I would suggest you do that. Also, look at your trusted college friends or people that are in your circle that you still interact with, but you wonder, oh, are they really going to be a referral source? You have no idea who they may be connected to on level 2. So all of these people have connections that you connect with. As you can see in level 2, you don't know if your neighbor is connected to the CEO of a company that you've been targeting for a very long time that may be in need of having their 401k reviewed. Or your neighbor or college friend might be connected with somebody that has a huge estate. They've just come into some kind of family transition. So these are all people that you want to make sure you're connecting with. And then third connections are people that could be potential prospects. And we will show you a little bit further on here in the webinar how that search process works, that you can, as you get more experienced and more confident, use LinkedIn to help you find or look for people to get introductions to. So our second step on LinkedIn is use a professional picture. And the funny thing about this slide is these two pictures with the X's through them are real-life pictures I pulled off of LinkedIn when searching for financial advisors. I put a financial advisory search into LinkedIn, and I went through the pages, and these two pictures with the red X's through them are literally profile pictures that people had. And not to say there's anything wrong with the pictures themselves, it's just that's not the impression you want people to have of you as a financial advisor. On the right-hand side is a client of ours, and we did not actually take his picture for him. He has his own photographer, and what we love about this picture, though, is this picture really personifies this individual. His name is Aaron, and this picture shows him professional, but it also shows him leaning forward, looking like he's ready to engage with you. He's approachable looking. He's friendly looking. It's a great picture. So we want you to think about your picture and what kind of impression does it give. A lot of times people, especially in the legal industry, have these fierce-looking pictures. Those pictures may feel good to them, but to somebody that's gotten your name from their CPA and is Googling you, it's not going to feel warm fuzzies when they look at a picture with somebody looking fierce and intimidating. It's not going to encourage them to call you. Whereas this picture of Aaron really does do that. When I look at it, I think, oh, he looks like a nice guy. And you know what? In reality, he is. So step 3 is completing your profile. And as we mentioned earlier, we are going to be giving out, for those of you that want it, an e-book, if you want us to send that to you. And then step 1, we, of course, provided you with a video for completing or joining LinkedIn, I should say. This page is a great example of somebody who has done an excellent job of completing his profile. And I literally found this off of that same LinkedIn search that I was doing for pictures. And so I do not know this person, but there's several things that I really like about how he's completed his profile. One, I love that he's a mature advisor, but he has a very robust profile. It says to me that even though he's been in the business a long time, he's taken the time and effort to stay up to date with his marketing efforts. It also shows me throughout his profile, he's got the terms financial advisor, see those highlighted terms, especially in his title and all through his description. The video link at the bottom is about 15 minutes worth of videos broken into 3 separate YouTube videos on how to keyword your profile so that it will come up higher when somebody searches a term either within LinkedIn or on Google that you want to be known for. So this gentleman, of course, has financial advisor in his, but there may be estate planning or there may be some area of specialty that you have that you want to make sure that you are including all throughout your profile. So the other thing that I like is he puts a check mark or clearly highlights or bullet points what he takes pride in. And I love how he does that because it tells me what he's passionate about. He also puts his contact information on his profile. It sounds like a very simple thing, but many people do not actually put their phone number and their email address on their profile, which tells me as somebody that's just Googling them that I cannot connect with them or reach them easily unless I know their email address to connect with them on LinkedIn. Well, what if I don't know them well enough to want to connect with them on LinkedIn? I just want to call them and find out about their services. I can't do that if you don't put it on your profile. So make sure you clearly make it easy for somebody to actually reach out and contact you. So he's also done that. So I give him an A+ for his profile, and you can go to his profile on LinkedIn if you want and use it as an example. I mean, there's nothing wrong with following how he's put his together.
One thing I want to add is how important it is. You might notice that he starts his LinkedIn profile by saying, hello, I'm Lewis Robinson. It's in first person. That's the biggest difference between your web-based biography and your LinkedIn profile, is that you are personally reaching out to people on LinkedIn. It's not just a copy-paste initiative where you copy and paste from your existing bio over to your LinkedIn profile. Part of it can be, but you need to go in then and make sure that you're communicating directly to individuals by using first person and talking about what you love to do and what you take pride in, and why you enjoy delivering services to your clients. Those are the types of things, and I can always tell if someone, you go to someone's LinkedIn profile and it's Mr. Robinson, blah, blah, blah. You don't want that. You want them to know you on more of a personal level when you're using LinkedIn. So make sure that you edit your LinkedIn profile so that it does convey that versus just using a copy-paste of your website bio. So now let's talk about the important part of LinkedIn, and that is how you add connections. There are a couple of ways that you can add connections that are easy to do, and I want to reassure you because the first option is what I did when I was getting started on LinkedIn, and I absolutely loved it because what I did was I actually had LinkedIn engage with my email program, which is Outlook. And what it did is it went through all of my contacts, and it came back with a little report that said, here are all of the people that you have in your Outlook contacts who are currently on LinkedIn. But don't worry, it doesn't send them connection requests until you check them and say, yes, I really like and respect this person, and I want to connect with them. So there are ways in which you can engage your mailbox with this LinkedIn algorithm, and only then will you select who you actually want to add as a contact. LinkedIn also has, well, and when you're making that connection, you want to make sure that your connections on LinkedIn are real connections. You notice that Lewis on the previous slide had over 500 connections, which incidentally is what Christy and I really encourage our clients to do, is to aspire to having more than 500 connections, because it opens options for you and gives you, it just gives you a lot more access to those connections, if that makes sense. So as you know, you also, here's another thing to think about. When you're doing business with people every day, have this top of mind with you where you're saying, gosh, I wonder if I'm connected with them on LinkedIn. I'm still surprised when I find people that I deal with and I'm not connected with them. So it's about awareness and making sure that you're thinking about, gosh, am I connected with this person? If not, it's really easy to go to their profile and send them a LinkedIn connection request. And then as you'll see over on the screen, you do have to know them. You can't just say, I don't know this person, because you won't be able to connect with them. So it's very important that you know that individual before you connect with them. But people are more than willing to connect with you. They see you, they know you. It's just a great way. It's a great next step, because we don't want you really engaging on LinkedIn until you've, number one, built an extremely solid profile and complete profile, and number two, have added some significant connections. The problem is if you start posting on LinkedIn and you only have 10 connections, only those 10 people are going to see your post that you made. So it's really important to build a strong profile and add your connections before you engage. So now we're going to talk a little bit about some ideas on how you can engage.
And I just want to add that it's really been a huge benefit for me and our business to be active on LinkedIn, and I'll tell you why. I've actually just gotten 2 clients in the last 3 months from LinkedIn alone, where people have actually found me on LinkedIn and engaged our services. And now we have 2 new clients coming on board that I have known or been in touch with for over 5 years, but have actually not spoken to them in the last 3 years. They've just, our content marketing through our status updates and our blogging and our own webinars has done the job for us. And they've contacted us and now are engaging us. That is beautiful when that happens. So to help you do that, after you've, of course, connected with your referral sources and everybody that you can think of, we want to encourage you to update your profile and start engaging. So an example of somebody that does a wonderful job of this is Kevin O'Laughlin. Kevin is actually a financial planner that is really involved with the Financial Planning Association in Minnesota. I've been working with him on the PR committee. He's been the chairperson of the committee for the last 2 years. And Kevin does an absolutely wonderful job on LinkedIn. He has a great picture. I love his picture. I think it, again, is engaging. It's professional, but it's inviting and warm. He has a wonderful profile. And then he does a great job of staying active on LinkedIn. And in fact, this particular post right here that I'm showing here on the bottom left of the screen is a post that he told me after I told him I was going to showcase this post. He said he had huge success with this post and lots of engagement around this post, and he was really glad that the firm had made this available for him to post. So find articles of interest to share. So it's not that you necessarily have to provide all your own content. It's go out and, like those suggestions we gave earlier in the webinar, go out and find valuable content that your viewers or your connections want to learn about. And a big part of it is not being super sophisticated. I just want to, somebody needs to mute. There's some background noise or somebody's talking. If I can just encourage that person to mute, that would be wonderful. Thank you. It's not always providing your own content, but it's making content that other people have already created available so that you look like a wonderful resource to all your connections, that you're in touch with great sources of information that will help your clients. So I know your clients don't expect you to be the end-all, be-all, but they want to know that you're connected and you're constantly learning.
Now we're going to talk about this is maybe a little bit more advanced after you've built your profile and you've connected with a lot of people and you're starting to share posts. Now we enter into the ability for you to join groups, and not just join groups, you can potentially create your own group and start engaging in higher level discussion. You might have seen on my bio, I developed a website for financial advisors, and the reason I mentioned this, it's Market Your Advisory Practice, but we have a group that is just around marketing for financial advisors. So we are trying to be out there as thought leaders, not just posting, but hosting and creating our own group around topics that are of interest. It's not about sales. It's not about call me and I'll talk to you and give you a free consultation. That behavior is somewhat, or I should say very shunned on social media. So we encourage you, again, to lead through thought leadership, and joining a group and engaging in a group is a great way to do that. One of our clients created, he's an attorney, and you'll see at in the bottom of the screen, he actually created a group for this is where I met him actually, at this law firm called Popham Hake that had about 300 attorneys. Well, they kind of fell apart, so Don decided that he was getting so much business from his former colleagues at this law firm that he created an alumni group, and now he has many, many people who used to work at this firm staying together, communicating, and most importantly, referring business to one another. So it's a wonderful thing to be a part of groups. I also encourage you not to just join groups that are in your financial planning, that support financial planners, but take a look at some of the demographics of your own clients and see if there aren't groups out there that will be attracting people that you would like to work with. Because once again, you're offering your thoughts, your ideas, valuable information that's going to be of interest to this broader group. So make sure, and it's kind of fun, once you get your profile done, you can go up and you can search for groups. Make sure you join the group that is your college or your graduate school alma mater. Make sure that you join groups that you already have a connection to. On LinkedIn, you can join up to, now don't let this scare you, but you can join up to 50 groups. Very, very different than being a member of the FPA, for example, where you have to attend and put time and energy into it. But when you join a group on LinkedIn, you are simply allowing yourself to have access to more people. You can actually go into a specific group if you choose, and you can start a discussion, and you can post your thought leadership and your ideas within a specific group based upon the content and the focus of that group. So we highly encourage you to use LinkedIn groups. Now, we have a few more tips for you on how to do just that.
So this is for those of you that may want to take that step of creating your own group. Here's just a little story that happened to a friend of mine, and he's not in the financial services or the legal industry, but I think it's still a great story, and I'd love to share it with you in case this is something you're interested in doing. Tim and I connected in 2008, shortly after he was laid off from the engineering firm that he worked at as a safety engineer. And so he had a family. I think he has 3 young children, and he was extremely motivated to get another position soon. But the recession was in full force, and engineering jobs in particular were very tough to come by. So Tim stayed busy doing consulting work during that time as he could get the opportunities to do so, but he also took advantage of the opportunity to create his own LinkedIn group. So he created a LinkedIn group, Minnesota Safety, Health, and Environmental Professionals. And you can read the description there on the screen of what he was hoping to do with the group, but essentially he wanted it to be a place for people in that industry to connect. He also invited, after he pre-screened them, some recruiters to be involved and other vendors in this group, so it could be a way for people not only to connect with each other, but also to potentially get jobs and help each other. He put together some rules, and those are on the left side. I think they're great rules for any group. And he did something that it's not always possible to do, but what he really did was he tried to connect anybody. It was a closed group. Anybody that requested to join the group, he would send a personal email to them and ask to connect with them personally, either over a cup of coffee or over the phone, to make sure that they were truly somebody that would bring value to the group and not be salesy. He continued to get lots of work from the people he connected with in that group, and actually within a year's time, he was connected with the company Actuant Corporation, which is located in Milwaukee, and they ended up hiring him as their global safety engineering expert. And he landed a position. They moved his family over to Milwaukee, and he ended up making 3 times what he was making previous to that. So it was a hugely successful opportunity for him. And I'm sorry, we need to have you all mute your phone. Somebody, unfortunately, we're getting some background noise, so if we can do that, that would be wonderful. So that's just an example of how LinkedIn groups can really be of benefit if you want to start your own group. Some great examples.
Okay, thanks, Christy. One of the things that we also want to talk about is how to use the very robust search features on LinkedIn. As you'll know, well, you'll notice when you go up into the main page that there is an advanced search option. Now, most people, myself included until Christy straightened me out, think that the advanced tab is for advanced LinkedIn users. Well, it's really not. This is the place where you click on the Advanced tab, and then you go in and you define the parameters and the specific keywords that you're looking for in order to connect with people, or more importantly, to see who your contacts have connections with. Because as you know, that you're not going to want to go out and do cold calling. You'd much rather have a warm introduction. So by mining, we call it kind of contact mining, your connections contacts, you're able to then position yourself to say, gosh, Joe, I see you know Christy. I would love to meet Christy. I've reviewed her profile, and here's why it's a good fit. Well, when you are connected to people who like you and trust you and respect you, and you are doing the same, that person, Joe, is absolutely going to help you in any way he can to make that introduction of you to Christy. And what we found is that when there's that warm introduction, when someone who's highly regarded says, you need to meet this person, it happens. It's not random, like running into somebody at a cocktail party and they say, oh, I'm going to introduce you to this person, and somehow or other that never happens, and it's a bit embarrassing to go back and say, you know, you were going to introduce me and you haven't. So using the advanced search feature allows you to search by industry, by group. You'll notice when you go to the next page on the search that you have the ability to check how deep you want your search to go. And we encourage our clients, at least for their first efforts in searching, to search their contacts and then to search their contacts. But you can also go to a third level, which is to search all of the groups that you're in. But that isn't quite, if somebody approaches me and says, I'm in a group with you and there are 25,000 people in the group, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. They're still not someone that I know. So I encourage you when you're doing your advanced searches to use different keywords, play around with this feature, and you will see how you are able to connect with people. This also shows you why, as Christy was talking about, it's so important to have keywords in your own profile, because when people go into this advanced search option, you want them to find you. So the more specific you can be in your LinkedIn profile about work you do, particularly work that's a little bit different than what other financial professionals would do. For example, you know, deferred benefit and compensations planning. Well, that's a little bit of a niche within financial planning. So to the extent that you have those areas, make sure that you use those in your keywords on your LinkedIn profile so that people are able to find you. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the process in terms of once you find those people that you want to meet, how to ask for introduction.
Another quick example I want to suggest for those of you that may find this of value is you can also search companies in terms of if you hear of a local company that may be closing or laying off people and there's 401k rollover opportunities, you can use this search option to find those people that may be connected to people within your network. So that's a great way to get introductions to people that may be opportunities for you. Here is a process that can work, and we actually suggest this as a very helpful way, and there's a couple different ways to do this, but here's one example. Rich Gall is somebody I know that does a lot of business development work, and he was building a business a few years ago specifically on this process. And what he would do is he would search his LinkedIn for people that were CEOs of businesses, and he would look and see who, through the search process on LinkedIn, who he knew that was connected with different CEOs. And during this is a real search that he did, and Danita was connected with this Mike, who was the CEO of this Industries, whatever the company was. And he called Danita first because you always want to touch base personally with somebody if you want an introduction. Called her and said, hey, I saw you're connected to Mike so-and-so. I would love to get an introduction to him. If I send you an introduction paragraph, would you be willing to make that introduction? And so the key is that you're providing the information for your contacts, whether you do it through LinkedIn or you do it after you've met with somebody for coffee and they've promised to introduce you to somebody or suggested a person they know that maybe you should meet. Always follow up with an email like Rich does here on the screen with some kind of summary that your contact can quickly pass along for introduction purposes, because it's so much work to think up your own paragraph to describe somebody else. And often that's why you don't get the introductions that people promise you, because they just don't have the time to think of what to say. So here in this example, Rich has done a wonderful job of, and granted it's a completely different service than what you all offer, I think it's a great example. And the reason why I use it is because it works so successfully for him. In fact, he was demonstrating this process to me a few years ago, and we used my LinkedIn, went through, searched for people that were CEOs. I actually had somebody in my group or my connections that was a potential person for him to meet. We sent the introduction email off. He got the meeting and got the largest sale of that year from my introduction, just when we were doing the example. So it was really fun, and it really is successful. So now we're going to move along and talk about everybody's favorite subject, which is compliance. And just quickly, Terry's going to talk more about this for you all, but just quickly, or I guess we both are, I want to assure you that your ZAG Marketing Committee has done a lot of work in the last 6 months on this topic and are resolved going forward in 2014 with Clint and Scott at the head of the Marketing Committee to really try and, from a ZAG level, put together some concerted efforts to share resources on this topic. So I just want you all on the call here to feel really comfortable in what Katie and your marketing committee has done in this area. So we're going to share with you just a really high level of what you all need to know as you're in the trenches working every day. So generally, from a high level, this is what you need to know about as you're out there starting to become more engaged on social media. There's 3 things you need to know about or be aware of in terms of content. The first is static content. So that is like back when I started in the business, it would be known kind of as, generally speaking, as advertising. So it's fixed content. It's your website copy, it's your LinkedIn profile, it's your background images, all those things that are what we thought of back in the day as advertising. That's static content now for social media, and it must be pre-approved. Secondly is your interactive content. That is content that changes all the time. So that could be your LinkedIn status updates and Facebook posts. If you do, some of you do have Facebook company profiles. It's tweets, it's instant messaging, blog posts, things like that. That needs to be archived and recorded. And we'll get to how to do that in the next slide. So just know that you need to ensure that as a firm, you've got an archiving system for all those things that are constantly changing, which is interactive content. I would almost, in your mind, if this makes it easier for you, think of that as your correspondence, which back in the day would have been your personal letters to somebody. The third type of content is third-party content. This is what other people might post on your status updates or comments on your blog. A lot of times your firm will require you, or your compliance officer or a resource will ask you to turn those options off. But regardless, that, generally speaking, third-party content needs to be archived and recorded. And just to help you with this, as kind of an overview, we've listed several archiving resources that we've found are being most often utilized by financial advisory firms. This is where, again, I want to assure you all that your marketing committee and Katie are really, we've spent a lot of time talking about this, and I know some of the firms are already actively using some of these. In fact, I think most of the firms are actively using one of these resources. So just rest assured that they are on top of it, but it is extremely important that you engage a service to archive your social media efforts. All right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to conclude with summarizing what we've talked about. So I'd like to first start with some of the basic next steps for you as an individual on LinkedIn. I'm not going to read all of these, but it goes through that process of developing a very strong profile, completing your profile, connecting with people that you know and like and trust and respect, keeping LinkedIn top of mind, making sure, this is a little thing I want to mention because we haven't talked about it, you each have the ability to personalize your LinkedIn profile. And that's another place where I look and see, you know, LinkedIn.com, Joe Smith, 143589 ABC, and you know that that person has not gone in and created a public profile for themselves. So you'll see right where that is, and all you do when you're in the Edit Profile feature is you click on that, and hopefully what you'll be able to get is it will be linkedin.com/in/your name, or a derivative of your name. So it just shows it's a level of sophistication, but make sure you all do that. It takes about 5 seconds. Making sure that you add and update your contacts and making sure that you are scheduling some time. You may not like this, but I really would love for you to spend 10 minutes a day on LinkedIn, either adding to your own profile, commenting on people that you see, because once you're connected with them, you see the equivalent of their news feed, making comments. I don't care how you spend your 10 minutes, but it's kind of like exercise. We want you to make this a habit so that you'll start seeing the value and that you'll experience some of those wonderful results that Christy just detailed with only one person. One example of one person ended up in the largest sale he had all year. So LinkedIn does generate results. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the next steps for the firm.
And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because this is where your marketing committee and Katie are completely on top of this, but this is what they're working on. They are creating a social, or already have created a living social media policy, meaning one that is constantly being updated and kept current. They are working on social media training. This presentation today being one of those efforts, which is really what compliance spot checks will look for, is are they making an effort to keep you all educated. They are working on archiving your social media content and keeping on top of all that for compliance purposes. And everybody that we've talked to has a compliance officer service or resource that's up to date and on top of your compliance efforts. So I want you all to not be as concerned, hopefully, as you were at the beginning of this call, because your marketing committee and your marketing experts at your firms are on top of this. So lastly, I think we are just going to quickly talk about Facebook.
Okay, so what we want to talk about with respect to Facebook, this was not a Facebook presentation, but we want you to know that Facebook, people can find you on Facebook, so you want to use it wisely. You want to make sure that anyone who finds you professionally is highly likely going to be able to find you personally as well. There are a lot of privacy settings that you have in your Facebook profile. We encourage you to go in. We view Facebook as more of the kind of the backyard barbecue party with friends, and we view LinkedIn as more of your Chamber of Commerce or association event. So make sure that what you're doing on your personal Facebook is worthy of anybody out there who's using the internet to find you. Now, Christy just reminded me that we are over our time allotment. So for those of you that need to end the call, feel free to do so. But we'd like to take an opportunity to respond to some questions. There's a question field down at the bottom of your dashboard where you can ask us a question on anything we discussed today. And we currently don't have a question yet, so if there's something that you want to know, please submit it and we'll respond to that. I'm going to give you all just a couple of minutes. Again, our sincere apologies for the technical issues that we had with the call, but like I said, we do have it recorded, and we just simply want to thank all of you very, very much for your time. And Christy has something that she wants to say in conclusion as well, so thank you again.
I just wanted to add, some of you are able to talk to us directly on the line, so if you are able to talk with us, we encourage you to ask any questions now at this point. Unmute and feel free to ask questions. Okay, if we don't have any questions at this point in time, which is completely fine, we want to just offer up that you're welcome to email us at these. Our emails are on the screen. And you're also welcome, we'll stay on the call for a bit, but if you exit off, you will get a survey where you can ask questions on the survey, you can request that ebook, and you can also request a copy of this presentation if you'd like, as well as access the presentation through Katie as well. So with that, we want to just thank you all again for attending and wish you luck as you go forward in 2014 maximizing your LinkedIn profiles. Thanks and have a great day.